their imagination.
You just said that the prophets are given a certain something.
Revelations, not drugs. There's a big difference.
No, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
So certain people can have this high experience, I don't know, even otherworldly experiences through drug being induced.
They come to any number of different people. You could be you could be a Taoist monk, you could be a Buddhist. Doesn't matter who you are. You can be Jewish, you can be Christian, you can be Muslim. When you're ready, that God, the Master, will appear.
No, but what I'm saying is, look, for everyday people, for the lay people, for them, what they require is some form of guidance. For them to lead a life. For example, if you were to distinguish between the good and bad today, everyone will have their own understanding of good and bad. Do you agree? Yeah, it's subjective. So how would you come to a conclusion as to what is really objectively good and what is really bad or evil? How would you come to that understanding? If everyone is thinking subjectively, which is not helping us, is it?
In a more pristine way, in a clearer, in more clarity, through having a series of revelations that showed me the order of things, and that order was behind.
How do you know that revelation is from?
It was also its flip side.
How do you know that revelation is from God, though?
Well, it was from. This is the thing, right? It showed me everything.
Yeah, but the devil can do that if he wants to.
It showed me
Could the devil
showed me.
Could the devil do that if he wanted to?
It may be. Here's the thing.
Do you remember in the Bible the devil shows Jesus
the bad.
Remember the devil takes him to a mountain?
Of something absolutely intrinsic in the human condition, and that is that we are both of those things.
You remember the 40 days in wilderness where Jesus spent with the Satan, and the Satan showed him many things. So the devil can show the same thing to even Jesus.
What did Jesus say at the end? He said, "Get out, go."
Yeah, but that's the thing. Jesus could identify the Satan. Can you though?
I think that, look, this is nature, and this is our understanding now of good and bad.
It's subjective. I'm telling you, good and bad for everyone is subjective. Unless and until God instructs you specifically.
There is an objective and a meaningful and a testable and a way to understand good and bad that have absolute connotations for the human spirit, psyche, body.
How would you identify that? That's the question, my friend. How would you identify good or bad?
That's the thing. You have to look at how people resonate and conjugate with each other, and I mean conjugation more than just a sexual sense, right? The idea of having a shared experience, the idea of having shared kind of relations that help us build societies.
There are many cults who have a shared experience, a shared understanding, but those cults later on people realized were actually indulging in evil. When their leader told them it was actually something good. Like the guy in Waco, Texas?
Jonestown.
Yes. Yeah. So these people, they literally believe that this is message they're receiving from God.
What do they
but
do
it turned
after
out,
a while? What do they start to do after a while?
Exactly. So but the thing is how it started was good according to them. And it ended up becoming evil. And that's why I'm telling you, how will you identify? Because many people have the shared experiences, which they are in fact, I don't know, in a way they become oriented once you're in that cult, that you're doing something good for the whole of humanity. And you guys are chosen ones, you guys are the special ones who God has chosen. And this cult, they believed everything that the leader told them. Until they realized it was just evil.
He rejected this notion of being. And there are passages in the New Testament that say these kinds of things. Don't run to me all the time. Don't worship anyone apart from God.
But just on that point, what you said there, we agree with. Worship only God. But you're using your experience to say that Jesus is part of God, and that's where we're disagreeing, because we're saying if you stick to Revelation itself, all the old patriarchs, Moses, Abraham, Noah, they never said Jesus.
Yeah, no.
So how could Jesus be God if they never mentioned him?
They have their own. The funny thing is that there are aspects of the Jesus story all over the Old Testament. That's another thing. There's another question that you can see where the Jesus story came about through the Old Testament in a very large part.
But Jews would disagree with that, and so would some Christians.
Well, Jesus would disagree with that.
Yeah, Jesus.
So if I were to ask you, did any of the
Jesus
patriarchs...
never existed in my worldview. Jesus didn't exist. As a person, historically, no one has a clue about Jesus in his time. No one knew about the
What do you mean he
miracles.
didn't exist?
He didn't exist.
What does that mean?
In Judea, he was never in the Sea of Galilee. When you're talking about fishing for men, it's actually stuff that's going on in the heavens.
Or Gnosticism, that's the Gnostic view.
No, the Gnostics believe in Jesus.
Here you go.
I don't know about
reading
you.
this at the moment. It's very interesting. I've known about this for a while. Every single
Scriptures in the stars.
scripture in the stars, the tetramorph, the idea of the great beast of Revelation, all you need to do is look up into the eternal heavens. It's right there.
What do you see in the
A
stars?
system of stars, 4 constellations that are the beast of Revelation.
What does that tell you?
Draco, all right.
What does that tell you? What do the stars tell you?
The stars were the backdrop for many of the stories that, like the as above, so below kind of aspect of where the stories came from. They came from the heavens, they came from the stars. Jesus is essentially a bit of a solar overlay of a story that's always been with us in Hercules, Apollo.
But you just said
Dionysus,
Jesus didn't exist.
No, that's right. He exists as a force. It's a consciousness within creation that is felt inside, innately in us.
Did Mary exist?
Luke and John say the same thing. You can read the Bible.
Did Mary exist?
No. Well,
No?
Where did she come from?
What do you mean, where did she come from? From her parents, obviously.
Yeah, but the thing, Joseph, Mary, the brothers of Jesus, so many of these characters, like John the Baptist existed in history. We know about him. We know about James the Just. Right, the Dead Sea Scrolls.
No, but
about
if
James,
Mary...
they don't mention Jesus. Why not?
Hold on. Mary did exist, right?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
We don't know, is the thing.
Okay. Did Joseph exist?
The Bible tells us that
Did Joseph exist?
outside of the Bible we have no knowledge of Jesus Christ. And we don't know any...
Outside the Bible, we got it in the Quran.
Well, sure, when did the Quran come out?
Oh, when did the New Testament come?
Well, exactly.
Exactly. So just
Find
because...
out. I mean, we can find out when...
No, but
when the
if
New
you're going to use that
Testament was
logic,
created.
just because the New Testament came maybe thousands of years after Abraham, for example, does it mean Abraham didn't exist?
It's usually in history when you're talking about the historical record and very big names in history, people who commanded armies, fed 5,000 with a few meager bits of bread and 2 fish. Usually that's going to create crowds. And if the sun darkens for 3 hours on the day of Jesus' death, and then there were rabbis in their tombs that get up and walk around, according to Matthew. Like these are zombies walking around Jerusalem.
Yeah, we don't believe it.
Nobody believes that because it's not true. It didn't happen.
In fact, only Matthew wrote about it, not the other Gospels.
Sure.
Okay, so those are anecdotes that we differ and we definitely don't believe. But the fact that if you were going to go just by historic records, you don't find any of Moses either.
I think we know who he is. I know.
No. On purely on historic records, did Moses exist?
Yeah, but he was.
Which historic record mentioned?
He was Tutmosis. He was an Egyptian late dynasty pharaoh. Yeah, and that the idea of the
which pharaoh was called Moses?
The thing is, I know
think you're all
a lot
over the
about the
place.
history of this, and modern archaeology is beginning to prove this thesis, and it's strong. You know what I mean? So we have Jacobam, we have Mamekra.
Let's stick with Moses. Which pharaoh was called Moses? None of them.
Moses, Akhenaten and Aaron.
Oh, he wasn't called Moses.
Yeah, it's the same deal. He had the story about
in fact, these pharaohs which you're talking about, they believed in an afterlife, which is completely different to what you, I don't know, even you as an agnostic would actually deny.
The idea of the Egyptian Book of the Dead and Osiris, the Assyrian copy of the story of Jesus Christ is very big. He was a dying and rising God.
I think we should stick to one conversation because if you go all over the place. So if you have any historic record of Moses, then tell us. Otherwise, just speculating that he might be this pharaoh, that pharaoh is irrelevant. Okay. So look, if you're going to hold the Bible, I don't know if you hold the Bible as a credible historic record, or is it just something that you would read and not
The Old
considered to
Testament
be
has a basis in truth, yes, but it's been filtered through.
only the Old Testament? What about the New? What about the New Testament?
The New Testament is basically a rehash of the Old Testament of the Moses. So Moses and Jesus are very mythologically linked.
How?
All kinds of. I can show you.
Did Moses have a birth through a
There
virgin?
are many.
Was there a virgin birth in the case of Moses?
No,
No.
I don't think so. But there are so many parallels, and oftentimes they.
Give me one that you can think of. Go on.
I could get loads.
But Moses wasn't God. You believe Jesus to be God, right?
He said Jesus didn't even
is
exist.
Incorporeal. He's not a person.
No, but that's fine. But
What Moses a
Celestial
person?
man, yes.
okay, no, but still, but Moses is not celestially God.
Was Moses a person according to you? So where's the parallel?
I can show you if you want. Let me just get.
No, but these are things that we know about Jesus and Moses, and there are many things that differ between them. For example, Moses led armies. Yes, he was someone who was in charge of a kingdom and so on, and he used to lead armies. Jesus didn't do any of that. Jesus was more or less a pacifist in the New Testament.
Yeah. And this is another thing about this, the wonder of these documents, because it tells you where Mark was writing, what Mark tells you and what Luke tells you. Luke is a more augmented story. The Lucan story is Romanized. That's why you find so many mythological aspects from the Greco-Roman world in Luke.
That's because Luke wasn't one of the disciples.
I know I'm going all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Let's discuss the God of Moses, Jesus, and Abraham. Do you think they all believed in the same God?
Do you know, St. Augustine once said, what we now call the Christian religion has always been with us in other religions.
What does that mean?
What existed before is right with us now in Christianity, and it always existed. I think he was on to the fact that there are so many pagan mythologies that were essentially saying the same thing.
Okay, so
and they branched out.
when you say pagan mythologies, are you saying that Moses actually believed in some, or Jesus believed in some pagan mythology? Is that what you say?
Yeah, they are pagan mythologies, 100%. They always have been, always were. The virgin birth happened with Romulus. The virgin birth happened with Osiris and Ra. The virgin birth is, Perseus. Alexander the Great had a virgin birth. Plato had his virgin birth. This was the mythological world at the time.
I'm talking about the God that they believed in.
Yeah, sure, it's the same, you know what I mean?
So Zeus is not the same as Yahweh, is he?
The mythotype tells you where the ideas came from, and it's the easiest explanation for what we see in the mythological.
So is it possible that you could be believing in a pagan mythology as well?
I think, and here's the thing, you can't test this, but when you have revelations of the Spirit that comes into the...
Yeah, but that's your subjective claim.
Exactly.
We can't really ascertain any of that.
That's right.
A guy could be smoking some weed and he could be telling us the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. I'm writing a book now called Parallel and Mythicism, right? And it links...
I think this is the thing with Gnosticism, because there's a lot of mythology involved in
This is
it.
both Moses and Jesus, yeah, so you have a look at... These are the...
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the internet which we could...
No. These are straight from the books. These are both died on hills. Both, Moses and Jesus do this and this.
But
You know what I'm saying? These are actual
that Jesus exists as
mythotype. They're links. They're pesher linkages.
no, okay. But the thing is, look, Moses, you don't believe to be divine. You believe Jesus to be
Guy
divine.
smoking weed could just tell us
So-
something.
Jesus is incorporeal. He's a spirit animal. He was who the epistle writers believe was died, who was killed and resurrected at the behest of God in order to fool the archons of this age.
But you know, the early Christians didn't believe this.
That was what the epistle writers believed.
No, but there were early Christian groups who didn't believe that. Jesus never explicitly said what you're saying. He never said that.
Can you give me an idea?
He didn't claim divinity. He worshipped God himself.
Are you talking about the Gospels? What do you mean?
We get the Quranic perspective, but even from a logical point of view, Jesus ate, drank, walked around, so everything about him was human.
Yeah, sure, but in what books?
I mean, the Bible describes him like a human being. The Quran describes him like a human being.
Yeah.
In fact, in the Bible, he's found to be worshipping God, bowing down on the floor. So how?
Matthew, Luke, and John, right?
What's the reference?
That Mark and John are different Gospels than Matthew and Luke. Right? And there are so many varying.
No, but they do worship him in many different Gospels, right?
He's saying he didn't even exist, so he's coming up from
No, but even if he didn't exist,
It doesn't make sense in history.
But from my understanding,
mythological perspective, because then you can pick and choose
but
what
that's-
you want. You're building a story
look.
that has truth.
So
the same thing.
how would you interpret the metaphor of Jesus worshipping God? How would you explain that metaphor?
I think that the metaphor is in an essential parable about a Jesus that lived and walked on earth, who was not a real person, but is there to teach Christians as a vehicle for understanding how to be a godly human being.
No, but he never claimed to be a godly human being. That's the thing.
But he came straight from the Father, right? There are plenty of. I mean, even.
But you're saying he didn't exist. What do you mean he came straight from the Father?
Embodiment.
Just now you said he didn't exist. Now you're saying he came straight
one,
from.
right? He says, "Me and the Father are one."
Yeah, he also says I and the disciples are one. He also says he and the disciples are one with the Father. So what does that mean?
This is the language that mythology uses to try and convey truth.
Yeah, but mythology itself means it's a myth. It's not something that's confirmed. So what you're believing in is something which is,
do you remember,
which could be fiction.
talks about this, the idea of truths that are transcendental, that are forever being encapsulated in stories. Like the Jews knew this well as well. They used to tell a lot of the Old Testament texts are there to convey archetypal truths. They're not necessarily based upon.
I mean, even if we were to go down your line, then the clearest archetypal type of truth is that of pure monotheism.
The end of it, sure, man, I believe.
No, but with Jesus being but with Jesus being deified, that goes against that archetypal truth. Like there's nothing like say that Jewish guy over there, right? He would never accept Jesus as being God, but he's been reading the Old Testament all his life.
Do you believe you are divine in some way?
Well, I believe, I think there's a divinity within every human being,
See what I mean? This is going beyond even monotheism. This is more like, I think the Hindus believe in a similar concept to you.
Paul believed in the same thing. I think a lot of Old Testament prophets believe in essentially the same thing.
Paul?
I don't know if this...
Paul was a Jew. He was a Pharisee. He wouldn't believe in that.
He was also, he became his Christian, his new sons of God, Christian, whatever.
Do you see?
He never mentioned the name Christian, by the way. Though.
Yeah, but do you see Paul worshipping a triune God? You don't. In fact, no one in the entire Bible worships a triune God.
You're right. I think that's more a gospel.
Exactly.
Narrative.
So
that's where the
it's not even in the
comes
gospel. It's nowhere in the Bible.
The Hindus have
This
the
is
triune.
the Hindus have
their three.
Yeah.
Isis, Horus.
A lot of paganism has made its way into Christianity, and most of it is from the 4th century, if you look at it.
Well,
Christianity itself, the Trinity was established in the 4th century. Yeah. So it's got its roots in Gnosticism, maybe in Greek mythology as well. And I wouldn't be surprised other mythologies too. But the important point which Brother Saboor asked you is that if you look at throughout the Old Testament, which you hold highly in regard compared to the New Testament, is the message of monotheism.
Yep.
So if you look at Deuteronomy 6:4, when Moses says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one." What do you understand by this one? Do you mean like in a sense which is an indivisible, unique God?
An uncreated source, uncreated.
But as a multiplicity or as a Unitarian God?
Unity, yes.
No, not unity. Unitarian God.
As a
so indivisible. That means he doesn't have persons. There are not multiple persons in the Godhead. So we don't believe in this triad or Trinity or triune God.
There's a thing there that's kind of it expands itself out. And if you want to talk about,
Where does it expand itself? Show me which prophet in the entire Old Testament advocated anything other than a Unitarian
Pure monotheism,
God? A monotheistic, pure monotheistic
Pure
God.
monotheism. Well, here's the deal. Like the Egyptians believed in a monotheism.
Yeah, but I'm not asking outside the Old Testament. I'm saying within the Old Testament.
Nine or seven lesser netters that began to form.
You have drifted outside the Old Testament again. Within the Old Testament, did any prophet advocate a God who is anything other than pure monotheistic? You keep drifting outside the Bible all the time. Egyptians, Hindus.
I'm telling you, I can prove to you quite easily that the Old Testament patriarchs were Egyptian. Or basically an Egyptian.
Show me where in the Bible it says that.
Well, it's all over the Bible.
Show me one place in the Bible.
Kings. It's the whole of the story of.
The question is, show me where they worshipped anyone other than a monotheistic.
Yeah,
pure monotheism.
I can prove this to you.
You keep saying
no,
but
but he's saying. I think there's a miscommunication here.
What are you doing?
He's saying something.
Outside the Bible.
He's saying something different. He's saying, what's the proof that these patriarchs, who you claim are Egyptian, worshipped anyone apart from God?
No, that's right. They saw a multiplicity of lesser parts of the one God in interaction.
Show me from the Bible where it says that, any prophet.
The way that.
Because this is your claim, it's not from the Bible.
Sure. I get what you're saying, and we're
You
just
have to
talking
concede that
slightly different language.
that from the Bible, even any language you use from the Bible, it has to be from the Bible. If it's not there, then you are just saying something which is outside the Bible.
You know, there are two ways to talk about God in the Bible, right? Hashem and Elohim. Hashem is oneness, is that one, amplitude, infinite oneness. And Elohim is a plural. It is many things. It is the one and the all at once.
Do you know Elohim can also be used for men, for angels, for false gods?
Yeah, but it's a
so
plural.
it's not it just means deity.
It's not categorical.
No, by the way, it's not
the sun and his shield.
It's not plural. Do you know Moses is Moses, if you read at Exodus 7:1, it says Moses was Elohim to the Pharaoh. What does that mean? Was it plural or singular?
Moses was Elohim to the Pharaoh.
Exodus 7:1, I give you the reference. So your theory that Elohim is plural is false.
No, it's not false.
It's only for people. If people don't know the language, Hebrew language, in Hebrew language, it's very similar to the Semitic language.
Yes.
The singularity of plural depends on the verb that's used alongside the noun. So when you talk about Elohim for Moses only, Moses is one man or many?
Well, no.
Yeah. So why was the term Elohim used for him?
Well, but he was called Elohim himself.
Yes.
Because he's one person who came down out of that one spot and became.
Now you're going back into outside the Bible. Sorry, you keep doing that. You know what you do? You talk about things from the Bible and then you extrapolate to things which are outside the Bible. You can't just mix and match. It's not a candy store.
So God creates in the beginning, right? He creates a multiplicity of different things. Okay, and they are creation itself. They are apart from God, but they are also kind of God.
No,
right?
they are not.
So
when you're a creation of God, you have no part of God in it. Because God, by definition, is eternal. He was not created.
Not in there.
What you're saying is something which is completely different.
He created the sun. Sorry, he created the earth and the heavens.
Yeah. So these are the creations of God.
Okay. So they are implicit in his, and he saw that it was good. And he rested and chilled on the seventh day.
Well, we don't believe that, but
so let me use the same analogy. Let's say there's a baker. He bakes a cake and he says the cake is good, and then he takes a rest after baking the cake.
Yes.
Is the cake the baker?
No.
That's
a good one.
Split himself up.
Who split himself up? I see he's going again into this mythology.
But logically, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the whole of the Hebrew alphabet, the Aleph Bay, right? What you can do with the alphabet very quickly is one shape that's seen from different viewpoints. And that one shape you can fit on the human hand. It's actually a physics. It's a shape of pure physics.
I have no idea what you're on about.
I know, right? This is the beauty.
Okay,
of
how
the
many letters
system.
are there in the Hebrew alphabet?
22.
Right. How is it one shape?
Final means. That's it. It's one shape.
How is it
It's
one
just
shape?
seen from different. So aleph or bait to break open. Right.
You're explaining the meaning. How is it
And
one
here
shape?
We're able to see now that there's a beautiful reference to the physical world in the letters, but also the way that the language.
My friend, how
was
is it one
created
shape?
from
You
the
still haven't
beginning.
answered that.
It's an amazing projective.
I don't think you're making any
metaphor
sense
for-
when
No,
you
no,
when
no,
you're
that's
saying
fine,
words
but I can show you
that
in time
does not
how this
correspond
works.
to the language in this scenario. You're saying they're one shape.
Yes.
How is the alphabet,
And the-
even if
the
it's
idea
22
of
letters,
the-
how is it
the
one
all
shape?
To break open.
Because if it
to
was one
create a
shape, then you couldn't
distinction
write a
between
word.
inner
Forget about a
and outer.
sentence.
That's what Aleph Beit is doing, creating a distinction between inside or the all, and then a breaking.
Have you moved into
and a
Kabbalah now?
separation from.
Is that from
No,
Kabbalah?
This is just the way that
So this is, this is what they do. The symbolism in Kabbalah is what he's bringing in.
Even if we stick to the metaphors.
And I know we're going everywhere.
No, it's fine. No, but what the point we're trying to get back to again and again is
the
that
monotheism.
look, it's
Monotheism.
No, but you don't. You said you got divinity in you. That's not monotheism.
Like male and female. I believe God is a oneness. Is both.
God has got nothing to do
God
with
is
gender. He doesn't need to.
I believe this.
No, but if you believe this, look. Did he not say that you have divinity within you?
Yeah.
Okay. How is that monotheism?
Because that Jesus has spoken and come into the hearts of believers or the believers.
You said
in
Jesus
the
doesn't
divine creation.
You said Jesus
and he
doesn't
showed
exist.
us
How is
an
he coming
aspect
to
of himself.
Jesus didn't exist according to you. How is he come inside
No,
you?
that's right. Jesus doesn't exist in corporeal in a
Physical.
historical form.
Are
you guys going to the pub? Where are you going? Pub. I'll come with you. No. I'll want to come with. 2 minutes. 1 minute. Sorry.
But look, the point which I was making in the beginning, and I think Hashim's making as well, is look, fundamentally, whichever way you look at it, monotheism is the message of the Old Testament, and monotheism is the most logical message. But with Jesus, as you're claiming to be divine, that goes against monotheism.
Forget Jesus. He's saying he's divine. He's saying everyone is divine.
Well,
Not only Jesus.
Because of Jesus, he says.
A bit of divinity, we can have the experience of the divine one in the Jesus, the Christ, Krishna consciousness that helps us expand our consciousness.
Jesus
shows us the way.
You haven't answered the question Saboor asked you. How would you reconcile the fact that Jesus himself worshipped God?
I don't believe Jesus existed, but I believe Jesus comes as a spirit and hits us in the heart.
Does the Father exist?
No worries.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Well, we'll do this again, yeah?
We will.
Yeah, all right, take care.
Good to see you, man. Take care.
It was great speaking to you. I would want to know more about this religion, Gnosticism.
Oh, I'm happy to. I've got books, reams and reams of information.
So what's this? Can you show us the book? Have you seen this before?
Yes.
Scripture in the Stars.
And this is just a guy called Martin Lee. So all of these things.
The Great Flood.
So yeah, crossing the feeding the 5,000, the parables, many of the parables, death and resurrection as something that's imprinted on the heavens as well. Where look up into the heavens, you'll see the stars conveying a story.
So you're reading this. You should also read the Quran.
Would you want a copy?
Do you have a copy? Okay. You should read it
Why don't
parallel.
we read them and then we can discuss from that next time. How about
Yeah.
that?
Great.
Yeah?
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Blessings. Thank you. Nice one.
I thought, maybe it's good if you give a message that when it comes down to pure monotheism, it's something that you can't escape, whether you look at Old Testament, New Testament, or logic. Yeah. Even the point I was trying to make is even from a metaphorical point of view, even if he's saying like Jesus didn't exist as a real person and he's a metaphor, even from that point of view, monotheism makes more sense than Jesus being divine.
Absolutely. That's the reason he was all over the place. When you start saying that, came into my dream, or seeing in the stars,
I had a revelation.
or a revelation, all these things are just only he can prove to himself.
Yeah.
It is not something which is objective. People have such subjective experiences in every religion. Forget about religion. In fact, people who don't even believe in God might have such experiences. So whom are you going to believe? You will be always in confusion, like the way he was, because he said many times, "Oh, we are going all over the place." He couldn't focus on one topic at a time, and every time we asked him, he would go somewhere far beyond.
He had to do that because he didn't have the solid grounding.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, one of the things I said to him, and I want you to comment on this, is he went from atheism to Christianity, because Christianity is what's been around and it's the religion of his ancestors, but it's not even Christianity, it's some sort of Gnosticism which normal Christians don't believe in. I said to him, you shouldn't just stop at the first religion that you come across when you...
Absolutely. He said he has copies of the Quran. The fact that he just has them doesn't make any difference unless he reads them.
Yeah.
So you need to obviously...
And actually thinks about it.
Yeah, you need to explore more. And Gnosticism is something which the early Christians...
I don't think he's a Gnostic though.
Well, he is actually from many, because they would incorporate many of the mythological beliefs from the language he uses. He does have a lot of Gnostic ideas.
Okay.
It's not Christianity.
Because Gnostics believe Jesus was real.
There's different Gnostics.
Right.
So it's not one monolith. Within Gnosticism, there are different branches as well. So yeah, he's definitely not grounded, as you say. And that's the reason you would start believing in all this mythological stuff and start to make sense. Because a lot of what he said is actually from Hinduism.
Oh, really?
Yes. That the divine within you. So when you hear a Hindu say namaste, he's literally saying, I bow down to the divine in you. And this is what this guy was believing in.
He was actually making a Hindu symbol.
Because that's what you believe in, because you believe in all this, especially mentioned reincarnation as well. Yes. And that God is one. He mentioned consciousness, which is the Brahman within the Hindu. That the only reality is the ultimate Brahman.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of Hinduism, maybe Greek mythology, maybe Gnostics, which they took from all these different combinations.
You know what's interesting, Hashim? This is popular nowadays.
I don't think it's popular, but maybe
for new age people, they love it.
Yeah, you're right.
Because there's no rules,
Gaining.
and you can't be wrong.
Yes.
Because you don't have to prove anything.
Everything goes.
Yeah, so new age people love this stuff.
True. May Allah give them hidayah. That's
We'll talk to him again.
Yeah. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Make sure you guys subscribe to Dawah.Wise and to Brother Saboor Ahmad's channel as well. So you push it off. So he died?
Whose is this?
How long is it? So how did the battery start?
Yes, it went to, it was,
Yeah, very good.
yeah? No, it was
Say
this one, brother.
huh?
It went orange, and I told you it was orange, and then it died.
Connection is okay, isn't it?
Yeah, connection is okay. I kept on checking. It just died. There you go.
No problem. I think we got
Yeah, we did an hour or something. Hour 5 minutes.
Discussion with former atheists.
Alright, do you want me to just take... Do you want me to start unpacking?
Oh, you upload straight away. Yeah.
Alright. They're gonna upload. Maybe you want to give me the backpack first. Alhamdulillah.
Algeria. I haven't been there.
Listen.
I haven't been there. I've been to other places.
Yes, we're going to protect the spot. No, you need to be a chauffeur, you need to be a nutritionist, you need to be a psychologist, you need to be a friend, you need to be a host, you need to be out right? That's what you need. So most people have they call it the ultimate scam. Nobody's telling you it's sex scam. Some social I don't want to. No.
Talking to Chris.
You haven't tried.
There's also other guys.
If anybody here is thinking of having one,
No, bro. I don't want to fight. You guys are talking. So Put the microphone in first. My batteries never die that quickly. I don't know what happened to them.
You want to keep it like this? Or should I turn it off first? Yeah.